there's kind of two ways of thinking with that. From like a publisher perspective, it's like if you're signing a writer artist, I feel like it's kind of understood that they're probably going to write more for themselves
Okay.
versus it's kind of obvious, like if someone's just a writer or a writer artist, you know.
Yes. I'm Adam, and this is an interview about you and your journey in music and how you got to where you are now.
Wonderful. Can you hear and see me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Your hair's kind of hitting the mic. If that
Should I take my headphones out?
you might be, it might work better. Let
Okay.
you mind trying?
Let me take them out.
Sometimes it's the computer audio is great, but sometimes
Is that better?
Maybe go back with the headphones. Sorry.
Oh no. Okay. I hit them.
No, that sounds good.
Okay,
It's
cool.
usually with those like ones that kind of come down where like if your hair is like, but this sounds fine.
Okay, great.
Amazing. So first off, I did read you're from Texas. What part of Texas?
I am from a small town called Argyle, Texas.
Okay.
For people who don't know Texas, I just say Fort Worth, but Argyle is north of Fort Worth. Kind of sometimes people will know it's by UNT, University of North Texas, like Denton, Texas. It's right next to there. Really small town.
I've heard of Denton, Texas. Actually, I've heard, so that makes sense. I have family in Plano, Texas.
Okay, yeah.
Which is
close,
kind of, I
really
think,
close.
Dallas, Fort Worth area.
Yeah, DFW.
There you go. What was it like growing up there?
It was really good. I moved to Nashville when I was 16, so I kind of feel like I grew up in Nashville a little bit too. I'm very, very Texas. My younger childhood was amazing. My family owns a ranch about an hour and a half outside of Fort Worth.
Wow.
I have 3 older siblings, so I'm the baby of 4. My family's like very like textbook Texas family. They all, do you know what rodeoing is?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, like they all rodeoed and stuff like that. And I like ironically am pretty afraid of horses, and it's weird. I have ridden a horse now. But yeah, very like quintessential Texas childhood. Loved it. I love Texas.
But growing up, you having your whole family into rodeoing, you were not a horse rider.
No, I'm not really sure why. I kind of found my place in that when I started singing the national anthem at the rodeos. And this is so dumb. There's when you're like a baby, like 2-3 years old, there's like stick horse riding where it's like not a real horse. You literally it's like a little kid event, and you're like 2 and you ride a little stick horse. And you like run
the
around
stick that has
barrels.
the horse head on the end?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's like literally what I did as a child. And then I think there's some pictures of me on a pony. I don't really know where my fear of horses started. I think I just saw a lot of like, I don't know, a lot of people get thrown off, injuries. And I guess I just really recognized the like power that horses have when I was younger. And so I like them a lot, and I can like be around them and walk them and touch them. Every time I've tried, other than last year, I successfully like got on and rode for a while. But every time before that, because they can sense fear. So I would just get on it, and then they would move, and then I would freak out, and then they would freak out. And it was just like, okay, I'm much better just standing next to this thing.
To it. How did you face your fear and get on the horse?
Well, I have tried multiple times. And like I said, it just kind of like lasts for a couple seconds, and I'm like, no, it's not going to happen. Well, I really, for a song that was on my my EP, it's called King of the World. I went to Texas and filmed a video for it. And I just knew that I like had to do it for that video. Like I really wanted to do it. And I was just like, there was something about like really wanting to be on a horse in that video just kind of was like the push that I needed to get me over the fear. And like the horse itself was very calm. I don't know, in the name of art, I got on the horse.
I love, that's a great song too. There's a line in it. I think I typed it out. Yeah, so you wrote everything you say starts with an I, but I've never heard you say I'm sorry. I was like, damn, like that's such a good line.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. But
That
sorry, go ahead.
sorry. No, that this is personal. I don't really care. I wrote that song in like 45 minutes, like years ago, like 5, 6 years ago. And that line specifically was from a text message that I was reading from the person that the song is about. And like it was like a paragraph text, and every single sentence literally started with an I.
Oh,
And so
wow.
that line like came literally, that's what happened.
That's funny. No, it's not
Yeah.
funny that you received the text message, but the response in just one sentence is is so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Wow. So you got into music at an early age? It sounds like you were singing the national anthem at the rodeos pretty early on.
Yeah. The first time I sang the anthem, I was 6.
Wow.
My mom tells me that she heard me singing to Barney, like the theme song and stuff, and it
Mhm.
just was like oddly on key for like a 2 or 3 year old. And then I think around the time I was 6, I was into singing enough to want to like go to voice lessons. And I think I asked my mom, like, can I get a vocal teacher? Um, and this teacher that I went to usually didn't take kids until they were like 9 or 10. And
Mhm.
she just heard that I'm not like, I
Good.
wasn't like amazing, but I was like singing on pitch, you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
And really wanted to do it. So she took me in early. And so I started vocal lessons when I was 6. And then in Texas, there's like Opries, like little like miniature grand ole Opries, you know? They're
Mhm.
the same thing essentially. And so I sang at all the Opries in Texas. And it's I love that about Texas. Maybe other states have it, but I wouldn't know. I love that about Texas because it gives like younger kids that like to sing like a place to sing other than like bars and stuff with
Right.
a live with really great live musicians. So I started doing that when I was 9, and then I kind of found my like home Opry. It was in Grapevine. It was called the Grapevine Opry, and I sang every weekend there pretty much until I moved to Nashville. So
Really? Wow. Were you
yeah.
doing just like all cover songs at that point?
Yeah, it was pretty much just covers. And it's like I would say it was a crowd that liked traditional country more. So I sang like a lot of traditional country
Mhm.
songs, which I loved because that's what I was raised on. So it just gave me like a place to learn how to perform um on stage, and then obviously with a band. And it was like a really good thing to like be consistent in my life for a long time.
Yeah, it's a totally different obstacle with the band, right? I mean, if you're thinking of singing a song to just like a karaoke almost version of it, what the band's doing might be a different tempo, or it might change a little bit. Just being able to adapt, especially at that age, that's
For
quite the
sure.
skill to pick up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's something you have to learn at some point, and I'm glad that I learned it so early.
Hmm. Do you come from a musical household? It sounds like your family is into the rodeos, but is anyone else musical? Like either your parents, did they play an instrument?
My mom, like when she was in high school, I think she sang in choir. And then my dad, like nobody plays instruments. Although my dad has like an affinity for guitars. Like he just likes them and likes
Mhm.
buying them.
That's
Um,
cool.
yeah, he honestly does like a really good Elvis impression. Everyone's like I would say that my parents can like definitely carry a tune, although they're not like musicians. I think I had a great grandfather that was like a really great banjo player.
Mhm.
But I think I'm kind of the first like serious musician in my family.
Okay, that's cool. Like,
Yeah.
it sounds like your family is very, supportive of it as well to get you into voice lessons and where you're singing the national anthem at 6 and
Yeah.
supportive in that way, and moving, I guess, to Nashville, maybe that's a part of the story, but, I wanna get to that. What with guitar, what was that, a skill you picked up? Like, how old are you when you started learning guitar?
I started learning guitar when I was 8. I started
Wow.
guitar lessons. Yeah. Um my it was kind of a there's a funny story about my first guitar. There was this guitar at my house, and I just picked it up one day and I was like, "Dad, where's this guitar from?" And it was like a really old, I think it's literally like a 55, I don't know the model, but it's a Martin. It's like a really old Martin.
Dang,
And
yeah.
my dad, there's the story is crazy about it. My dad, when he was in college, this is hilarious, but he was looking for a typewriter. And so he went to a pawn shop looking for a typewriter, and there was a guy walking in with a guitar and a typewriter. And so he stopped the guy before he even got into the door and was like, "Hey, I came to get a typewriter. Can I buy that from you?" And the guy was like, "Oh, I really want to, I'm trying to sell them both together to get more money." And he was like, "Okay, I guess I'll buy the guitar too. How much do you want for it?" And he was like, "What about 18 bucks for the typewriter and the guitar?" And so this guitar, which is like, I'm sure worth a lot more today,
Oh
he
my
got it for like
gosh.
$9. And it's the only guitar I had. And I brought this guitar to the guy that I started taking lessons from. His name's Curtis, when I was like 8 or 9. And he was like, "This is your this is your
Yeah,
guitar?" He was like,
right.
"This should be in like a glass case somewhere." And I was like, "Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's the only one I have. It's still at my parents' house." But yeah, I started guitar at 8 or 9. Just really fell in love with it. I'm so glad I started learning really early.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. A 50s Martin. That's
Yeah.
gotta be worth thousands, I would imagine.
Yeah, probably.
That So when you guys realized that it was worth a lot of money, did you switch it out and get a different guitar?
Yeah, I ended up
Okay.
getting I still play it. It's a God, I'm so bad with model numbers and
Yeah, no
everything.
worries.
My main two guitars I play right now are an Emmylou Harris Gibson, and then the Martin that I ended up getting when I was like 9 or 10, after I was like, "Oh yeah, I probably shouldn't play this anymore."
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. So once you started learning guitar, were you learning, then, like, doing cover songs, that playing maybe some of those ones that you were singing at the Opry?
Yeah. The first song I learned on guitar was More Like Her by Miranda Lambert.
Oh, cool.
It's like kind of my I really learned that country, like a lot of country songs really are like 4 chords.
Yeah.
And so it was just like a simple song for me to learn.
Mhm.
So yeah, it kind of I obviously learned theory and stuff like that, but I would just bring songs to my guitar teacher, and he would I was big on like, I just want to learn how to play songs. Like I cared about the theory, but I cared much more about like, to just teach me how to teach me chords, you know.
Yeah,
And
I think
luckily
I was gonna
country
say,
songs are simple.
yeah, that's I feel like the people that will carry on and actually enjoy it are learning in that way. Like I've interviewed a lot of people that are like starting on piano, and it's like I quit because the teacher wouldn't teach me anything other than how to play the notes and theory, and I get the structure behind it, but if you're trying to keep a kid interested, I would imagine throwing them a bone as far as like, yeah, okay, we'll teach you this Miranda Lambert song, or we'll teach you this, but
Yeah.
back to this a little bit.
I'm one of the kids that quit piano lessons because the teacher wouldn't teach them anything but like theory. I was like, I
Yeah.
just want to know chords.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't get it. I always say I want to
I
start
know.
my own. Like I can't play piano. I could play chords, but if I just taught kids how to play chords or the
Yeah.
songs that they want to learn, instead of being like, okay, this is how you do this. It's just
Hmm.
put your fingers like this, and there that's got to be a lucrative business, I would assume.
For sure. There's
Uh,
YouTube now.
Oh, that's true. That would definitely price me out. But
Yeah.
so what took you to Nashville? How did you get there? Like, did you guys take a vacation there, or was it somewhere you always wanted to land? I mean, to get there at 16, that's pretty
Yeah.
incredible.
So early. I think that I did take a trip to Nashville. My first trip to Nashville was when I was 12, and I went to the Grand Ole Opry and I saw Vince Gill for the first
Wow.
time. Biggest Vince Gill fan ever. I've actually gotten to work with him in the last few years, which is crazy. I'm just a huge Vince Gill fan. And so I saw him at the Opry, and then I ended up going to a songwriter round, which was weirdly Jenny Gill, his daughter, was in the songwriter round, and it was at the very first listening room in Nashville. And so that trip kind of like allowed me to see like the stage artist performer perspective, and then also like the songwriter perspective. And I think once I saw mostly the writers round, I just, something about it was like, that's really, that something like really drew me to that. And I
Mhm.
started I started, I think I met some people that were doing that round, and then weirdly started meeting people to write with when I was 12. And so I've been co-writing since I was 12. And then Yeah, something about that first trip just really, like, lit the fire, and then, like you said earlier, my parents sound really supportive. Like, if I could say anything about my parents, it's just how truly supportive they have been of, I mean, all their kids, but me and this journey.
Hmm.
Because everything has just been like from helping me facilitate the things that I want. And so that first trip really like lit that fire. And then I just got really hooked on, I obviously had already been, I know it's weird because I was so young, but I had been performing for like years with the band. But I think that the thing that did it for on that trip was seeing songwriters. And so it just kind of like, it's honestly kind of a blur, but it just like snowballed. And I started coming back probably like once a month from the time I was like 14 on. And then I finished freshman year in high school in Argyle. And then, like I said, it's kind of a blur. So at some point, I asked my mom if I could finish school online. And then I was already spending, it was because I was already spending a week out of every month here, even when I was 15. So it was getting
Hmm.
really hard for me to keep up with like the schoolwork from Texas.
Sure.
And so I asked if I could just go fully online and spend more. I kind of asked if I could flip it, if I could spend a week in Texas and then the other 3 weeks in Nashville. And it just worked out. And I ended up getting a publishing deal here when I was 16 with a
Oh my
small
gosh.
company. Yeah. So I got my first publishing deal when I was 16. And then for some reason, from a very young age, it was like, get a record deal, get a publishing deal, then like those are the two things I need. So I did the publishing deal by the time I was 16, and then from then on out it was just like it felt like I literally woke up every day and was like, what do I need to do today to like to get a record deal? And I
Hmm.
ended up working when I was 17 at the listening room. I was a hostess and I just met songwriters, and it kind of helped that I had a publishing deal to kind of give me that credibility. And
Hmm.
then I just found my people and kept writing.
Wow.
Yeah.
To let, I mean, at 12, having people allow you to write with them, that must have been a big deal, I would think. Like if some 12-year-old girl was like, "Hey, I want to write a song with you." Well, most people would probably be like, "Yeah, okay, yeah, sure." But
Yeah,
you were
yeah,
able to.
I know. It's like I said, it's just a blur. I don't really remember how it all happened, but it did.
Mhm. That's so cool. And so once you get this publishing deal, are you then, because from what I gather from that, you get to write songs with people for and pitch those to artists, right? You're not you get signed on as for a publishing deal, not as an artist yourself. Is that kind of what it is? I can't
I
remember.
feel like I feel like there's kind of two ways of thinking with that. From like a publisher perspective, it's like if you're signing a writer artist, I feel like it's kind of understood that they're probably going to write more for themselves
Okay.
versus it's kind of obvious like if someone's just a writer or a writer artist, you know.
Right.
I personally would love a career like Julia Michaels to where I could write huge songs for other people but then also put my own music out. That would be amazing for me.
Hmm.
But I honestly was writing for myself even at 16.
And what will you'd pitch? You were writing for yourself, but you'd also have to work and pitch songs to other people.
It it wasn't really I wasn't it was with a really small company, and I think that they kind of wanted to help me develop as an artist. So it was honestly, even though it was a publishing deal, it was still focused on my development as an artist, which I feel like a role of publishing nowadays is like I feel like they do dabble in artist development too.
That's
So
cool.
it wasn't like a super writer focused publishing deal pitching for other artists. Like the company had an investment into developing me as an artist too.
That's amazing. And were
Yeah.
you then like what was kind of, I mean, you get the publishing deal, which is a huge milestone in your story, but like after that, what was kind of the next big thing to happen to you, or what was the next stepping stone to elevate your career?
Yeah, so about probably 16 to 20. So I was in that publishing deal for a couple years and then I ended up getting another one when I was 18, and then I ended up signing a record deal in I was in negotiations towards the end of 2019, but I ended up signing a record deal in March of 2020. Which was
Pre-pandemic
like,
or like
yes,
full lockdown? Oh my gosh.
no, like pre-pandemic. So that was fun.
Yeah. So, oh my gosh. So you get this deal finally, the thing you've kind of been hoping
Always wanted.
for. Yeah, always wanting. And then you're like, okay, awesome. I signed this record deal. Oh, now the world's shut down. Obviously, taking this, it was horrible for everybody, but having that opportunity, do you feel like it was kind of taken from you, or like, how did you adapt to that?
So the EP that I have out currently, that I put out in April of
Hmm.
2022, I recorded that project in 2019 before I even got a record deal. And
Oh my gosh.
I was supposed to put that out in June of 2020. And then when the pandemic happened, it
Everything got
just
pushed.
everything got pushed until April of 2022. So yeah, it was hard in all the ways one could imagine. I think for me, like, the biggest thing was like, "Oh, no, this thing that I have wanted, the one thing I've wanted is not panning out how I thought it would because
Hmm.
of, like, the weirdest circumstances one could ever ever think of."
Right. Yeah.
Um, and I think almost from, like, a I mean, it's been mentally, emotionally, like, spiritually such a journey for me since that happened, but I think the biggest thing is, like, because I had put such an emphasis on getting a record deal from such a young age, I think a part of me, um, decided that, like, once I get that record deal, then I can focus on being happy, really really paying like, learning myself, like, really focusing on I don't know, and it sounds kind of drastic, but, like, almost like my life truly begins once I get that record deal.
Hmm.
Um, and I've talked about this before, but just something about how much emphasis I put on it, then for it to not go how I planned it was just like it really shook my reality. And so I had a really, really hard time for probably like 2.5 years, figuring out how how to move forward, how to even function kind of just because nothing was happening. And I had this project that I thought was going to launch my career. And then, although I'm very proud of it still, and I think it is the most or was the most accurate music to put out to the world first, kind of my, you know what I mean, my first
Yeah.
music
Like,
for people to listen to. I
yeah.
put it out almost 3 years after I had cut it. So I felt like such a different person than just from a personal perspective than the music kind of where that was at. I was happy that I was so proud of it and the production and the songs like held up through those years. But I think just like aesthetically, I looked different. I was in a very different place mentally. So it was a struggle. It was a big struggle.
Yeah, that would be very hard, especially if you're in a record deal. From what I have heard, gather is that you can't just release it when you want, right? So you've had these songs done, you've got the EP ready, and now you've got to sit on it for 2 years. And in the meantime, you can't really. I'm sure you were still writing a bunch, and you can't do anything really, right?
Man, I honestly was so down that for 2020, the entirety of 2020, I did not write a single song. I
Oh
just
wow.
couldn't really even get myself to write about what I was going through, which is really weird for me because that's all that I do.
Hmm.
I think it was just so much for me that I wasn't ready to like get it out. I started writing again in January of 2021. Um, but yeah, like you said, like I didn't really you can't really know what having a record deal is like until you have one.
Hmm.
And so while I'm grateful to have I think the biggest thing I'm grateful for is to know what it's like to have a record deal and to have learned truly I didn't realize that when you sign a record deal, and this might sound silly, but I didn't know this, that you are given a release date, and that release date is based off of all of their other artists and what their release dates are. So if there's an artist that's bigger than you, that they have a record coming out, like you don't like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
you're
they want to put that record out and do the promotion and all the stuff behind that record.
precisely.
Yeah, and you
And
get kind of
it
shelved
like
back.
felt like the Hunger Games to me. Like I didn't realize that, and that was really yeah, I just learned so much throughout that experience.
Yeah, well, you're an independent artist now, correct?
I am. I
That's
am. I've
huge.
been independent. So huge. Like I said, I learned so much from that experience, which I just am so grateful for, because now I can move forward knowing what, if I am to sign another record deal, like what to look for, what was missing,
Mhm.
what I really want and need from that. You know, how it feels when it's not working versus how it should feel when it is working. Just all the things that I are important to me. I really I've kind of honed in on that. And yeah, I've been an independent artist for about, I don't know, 7, 8 months. I'm working up to putting out my first independent release this Friday.
Yeah, I
Um,
had a chance to hear the song. I'm gonna talk to you about it. It's a really, really good song.
Thank you. Thank you. So it feels, I can't cuss on the show probably.
Yeah,
It
you
feels,
can. You can say whatever you want.
I was going to say it feels fucking amazing
There you
to
go.
just be able to put music out when I want to, and like to the music that I'm putting out like matches up to where I currently am as a human, because I wrote it 6 months ago and I cut it and I put a plan together, and like just that freedom is like what I feel like I deserve as an artist. And until I find a I think that maybe ultimately the goal for me would be another label partner at some point in time. I just have learned too much to go back to something that isn't enough for me, and I'm kind of like, I'm going to build something that allows me to walk in a very different position than I was in when I signed my first record deal. Right now
Mhm.
I'm just really enjoying the freedom of being able to like say what I want and make what I want and post what I want, and there's honestly nothing better.
Yeah, it's interesting just because how the tables have turned in the music industry when it comes to those things. Like, sure, there's gatekeepers still, but there's also so much more freedom that could be had, especially if you're building your own brand with, the power of the internet, right? I mean, you could get out your song and just as many listeners and as many fans as, having a label or not. It's like it's a little bit more level of a playing field. Obviously, some of those people have more connections and money to put into it, but
Right.
still, like, it's it's your the ability to build your own brand and your own thing is
Mhm.
way more, I feel like, attainable in this day and age.
Yeah. It's like if as an artist, if I'm not putting out music, what am I doing, you know? Like,
Right.
it's like, as a creative person, if I'm not in a situation that is allowing me to consistently put out music, like, that's just it's like, this is I think that's one big thing that I struggled with in my past situation, was I felt like I was going like, "Hey, everyone, like, this is my life. There is no separation here between like, oh, this is just my job. Like, this is my life. Like, this affects my mental health. This affects everything. This affects the entire trajectory of my life. And this is everything I've wanted since I was 9 years old. So I'm gonna, if this isn't uh a if this isn't a priority, I need to move on so that I can figure out how to get to where I want to go, because I just felt like I was in a situation looking around at people who my success or failure didn't affect the trajectory of their life. It only affected mine. So
Mhm.
that was really hard on my mental health. And yeah, I just kind of came to a point. I was like, I don't care if it takes me twice as long if I have the freedom to consistently put out music.
Right, because if you're not putting out music, then people are gonna forget, right? They're gonna be like, "Oh, oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, I forgot about Abby. She had
Yeah.
that one song."
It's like
You're
I
like,
don't want
yeah,
to
I've been
I
waiting
don't
on these other ones.
right, it's like I don't want to sit on TikTok and sing covers and I haven't put out music, like original music in a year, you know? It's like I feel like the obviously social media is such a um driver for people finding music, but at some point it's kind of like, okay, I posted this cover that has 2 million views. What a concept to then be able to have current new music out for all those 2 million people that just saw this cover to go click on to then discover me as an artist. Like I'm not
Right.
it's like I don't want to waste my time posting on social media if I don't have anything for those people to then go and find. You know, it
Right.
just feels like a black hole.
Or you don't want to
I
be
feel
known as
like,
the person that just does covers, right?
right, I feel like it all has to work together. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
whatever you pop up on social media for is you can't really control that, you
Right.
know? But I feel like when there is, I think one thing that I have been missing throughout the last 3 years that now I have the freedom to create for myself is a plan, just like a
Hmm.
strategic plan moving forward of like, okay, what music are we dropping this year? When do we want to put out an album? Like, I haven't even been able, like, I haven't even had, no one even had discussions with me about like putting out a record, you know? And that as an artist, like, I have always looked forward to the day that like I get to put out my debut record, and I'm not there yet. I'm not in that place. This year is more about just like getting some of this new stuff out that I've been working on
Hmm.
while I'm writing about everything that I've gone through and am going through right now. But I think like with a strategic plan in place for releases, with great consistent content on social media, with a great team, it's like all those things are what makes a career really launch to me. And so
Yeah.
that's just what I'm working on right now. I've always felt like it the wheels were like stuck, you know, it just wasn't working like a well-oiled machine.
100%. Yeah. I
Yeah.
could definitely see how that would be frustrating in the least. But like you said, though, the songs that you wrote for that EP, like they obviously held up, and they're great songs.
Thank you.
Because when you finally get a chance to release it, you've got like some big hits on there. I mean, you're getting a lot of love from those songs.
Thank you. I really love that EP. Like I said, like I feel like I'm really I think I knew that it would hold up, like, during the pandemic and stuff. I wasn't really worried about when the music came out, what like, if it was gonna be inaccurate to who I was musically,
Hmm.
because I just knew that it was good and I felt really proud of it. I do feel like yeah, I do feel I hope that my honestly, like, continuing to put out new music only helps that EP because I don't feel like it got to live, like, its fullest
Hmm.
life, even though it has, like, done really well. I'm still excited for people from listening to new music that I'm putting out to go back and discover that because I just really love that EP.
Yeah, it's a great. Yeah, all the songs are really good, and it's got
Thank you.
millions of streams on Spotify alone. So
Thank you.
that's something definitely to be proud of. The new one though, if you were a song, I think that's it's a really really great song. Can you tell me
Thank
about
you.
that? Like when was this written? I mean, having that big of a gap where you're just kind of sitting around waiting, that must have been hard to do, and you probably wrote a bunch of songs between those times. So tell me about this one and why you decided to put it out as kind of the next release after the EP.
This one was written in, I think, June or July of 21. I wrote it with Nate Cypher and Nathan Spicer, who's my boyfriend and my producer. Nathan is.
Oh, cool.
That writing combo, me, Nate, and Nathan, we wrote "Thought About You" on my EP.
Oh, wow.
Um, which, like, if you listen to both of "If You Were a Song" and "Thought About You," they kind of like they seem like they were written by the same people. They have, I don't know.
I'll
Nate
have
is
to go
based
back
in
and listen to the other one.
yeah, Nate's based in LA, and like everything we write just has kind of like a West Coast energy to it, even though
Mhm.
he comes here to Nashville. But we wrote this in July, and I think that I came in with the hook I'm a big, mostly I try to come into a room with a hook. I love titles. And so I was just like, I don't know, guys. I think it would be cool if we wrote a song called If You Were a Song. Like that sounds, at first I was like, before I even threw out the title, I was like, this is lame. Like this is going to sound like a lame title, but it's like, I like that it's so basic. And if we could do it in a way that's not written in a basic way and then produce like really cool and fresh, I was like, I would love the juxtaposition between such like a simple title and like a little less simple production. And so we just had a great time writing it. It was a lot slower at first. We sped it up a lot during production. And I think like we wrote the chorus first and we were just really careful about like every line writing really well to that to the hook.
Mhm.
And I love how it turned out. And I think the reason I just kind of knew once we cut it that it would be the first one I would like to put out is just because it feels like an extension of my EP, just kind of like an evolved version of me.
Mhm.
And I honestly just like the energy. It's kind of just, I don't know. I just kind of knew that's the one I'd like to put out next.
Yeah, no, it's an amazing song, and just love your writing style as far as the way you write lyrics. Even
Thank
that
you.
song is really, you talk about throwing a tip in the tip jar, so they play the song, but you're talking about the person if they were a song, and then like getting it hearing on the radio or whatever, like just all these little like tie-ins to how people will receive music. I think it was really
Thank you.
clever.
Thank you.
Yeah, and is this gonna be part of I mean, you obviously said at one point you wanna put a full album out, but you probably have other songs done and ready to go?
I do. I think that this year is going to, because I do have the freedom to do whatever I want. I like the idea of right now just dropping a song every 6 weeks, every 8 weeks max. Um, I don't love the format that kind of is a thing right now of like you drop 3 songs and then, or even 4, and then you drop one more and it compiles into like an
Oh, one
EP, and it's like
EP,
my EP
sure.
is dropping on Friday and I'm like, but I've already heard
Everything except for this one
everything
song.
except for one song. Like I think they do it maybe for like algorithm or something. I don't know. I won't be doing that. I don't think. Just because
Okay.
I don't love that for me personally. So I feel like ideal perfect world is I would just release singles this year, working up to an album in the first or second quarter of next year. And I don't know what that, so I think that I'm kind of considering from a writing perspective, everything that I'm currently writing right now is
Mhm.
for that album,
Oh,
which
cool.
really excites me.
That's amazing, yeah, and what you have coming up is so, huge as well. You got CMA Fest you're playing. I saw that you're gonna be doing Stagecoach, which is
Yeah,
another I mean, those are like the biggest country festivals.
I know. I've known about Stagecoach for a while, obviously. I didn't know until like probably like a month ago or so, my agent sent me like the full deal memo and I looked in it and said main stage and I was like, no, this has to be wrong. Like why would they put me on the main stage? And I just assumed this whole time I would be playing like a smaller stage or
Uh-huh.
whatever. But I'm the first opening main stage slot on Saturday, which is lit.
Whoa.
My parents are coming out. It's a 20-minute set, so I'm really stoked about that. Yeah, it's just like honestly, the next couple of months have shaped up to have some really great shows. I've accepted some that I haven't really even announced yet. They're kind of more like Nashville industry
Mhm.
ish vibes. But it feels kind of like something about me shifting around some like stagnant energy in my career and just like making some decisions that felt scary, but I knew that like I'm just a big believer in if I've gotten really comfortable in the last couple of years with the feeling of being like, okay, well, I'm going to jump off this cliff not knowing what's in front of me because it's got to be better than what's currently happening. Like I've gotten a lot less scared of the unknown.
Mhm.
And I think that I've had to make some decisions in the last few years that felt like jumping off a cliff and not knowing what was in front of me. And that has like paid off for me big time, just as far as like in the last couple of months, like opportunities that have come to me, and people that have showed up that really believe in me. And I'm kind of like putting this team together, like an independent team. And I'm just like, fuck yeah, this rocks. This is what I've always wanted, for people to just be like, what can we do? We believe in you, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, I think that you're
So
going to be massive, to be honest. I mean, your
thank you.
songwriting is so good, and just the way you write lyrics, it's just really relatable, and the hooks are all there. And
Thank you.
I think you deserve the main stage of Stagecoach, which
Thanks.
I've never been to Stagecoach. I'm originally from San Diego, but I live in Nashville now too. But
Oh, I
I
didn't
would go
know
to
that.
yeah, I'd go to Coachella a lot. I would, I'd been a bunch of times, and just it's the same space that they do Stagecoach, and
Yeah.
those stages are huge, and I think you're
I know
gonna
it's
have a
going to
lot
be
of
the biggest
fun.
stage I've ever been on.
It's gonna be
And there's
insane.
probably going to
Yeah.
be like 20 people there, but that's fine. I saw a
No, there'll be
video
a lot
of
of people. Trust me. They people get in there. It's like a whole
I don't
thing.
know
I
what
mean,
to expect. I just know that I have like this will be kind of like I'm bringing merch, and I've never really had merch before. And my merch designs, because no one's the boss of me right now, are like so funny. It's like me flying on a UFO through the desert. It's like one of my merch designs. I saw a video on TikTok the other day of, I think it was 2017, and it was Billie Eilish playing her first festival, and there
uh-huh.
was like literally like 10 people there, and then she's Billie Eilish now, and I was like, God, please, like,
Oh yeah, though
I
that's what I'm
hope there's,
saying.
yeah, I
You
hope there's videos. I hope that's one of these moments.
It will be, because I've seen I remember seeing I think it was 2002 at Coachella, the Killers were the first band. They played at like noon on Friday, and
Damn.
people, yeah, now they're one of the biggest bands in the world. So
Yeah.
it's like you see those. If you go back, I'm sure if you looked at a bunch of old either Coachella or Stagecoach uh, lineups, and you
Hmm.
look at the bottom row of, I bet every single one will have,
The
yeah,
tiny
the little
text.
print where you need like a magnifying
It's like
glass.
your eye exam for the year.
Yes, and you will see so many artists on there that you're like, damn, this person played at noon or whatever. And you're
Yeah.
on Saturday. Is it Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or just Saturday, Sunday?
It's Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah, so people are camping out. They'll be
Yeah.
in there. I mean,
And I
you
think
have a legit
it's
slot.
it's really cool because I just got to tour in California at the end of last year from the CMT tour.
Mhm.
You said you're from San Diego, and I had never been to San Diego before, and I fell in love with San Diego while I was there. I was like,
That's awesome.
I need like $6 million so I can buy a house in La
Yeah,
Jolla.
in La Jolla,
Um,
right.
God, it was so good. But I'm glad that I got to tour there, because I do have like some, I mean, it's like 10 girls, you know what I mean, that are
Yeah,
coming to Stagecoach just from me touring on that CMT tour with Maddie and Tay. So
that's so awesome.
I love playing in California. Yeah, I'm stoked.
That's awesome. Yeah, the best comment about San Diego I've ever heard was somebody called it uh LA's cooler younger brother. I was like, I like that.
It's so true. I love
Uh,
LA, but you get there and you're like, oh my God, I feel like
it's overwhelming.
I feel like it's a, I don't know. I feel like everyone's looking at you, just judging so hard.
Oh, of course. How many Instagram followers do you have?
I
But
know.
well, thank you so much for doing this, Abby. I'm so excited for
Thank
everything
you.
you have coming up. That's amazing. I have one
Thank
more
you.
question.
Yes.
I did see you quoted somewhere. Well, my question is if you have any advice for aspiring artists, but I saw a quote that you said the best advice was given to you from your dad, and I'm wondering if it'll be different than to an aspiring artist.
What did I say was my
Something about boys are trash or something like that. I can't
That's
remember.
hilarious. My dad did tell me growing up boys are trash. Um, I think I think maybe two things. As far as from like an industry advice, I think that I would give to a new artist is figure out what your vision for yourself is, because if you don't have one, someone else will impose their vision on you. And I think that if you have a vision and know what you want, it only helps your team be able to then go and help you facilitate those things. If you don't have a vision for yourself and kind of like, I mean, literally like a list of things that I think when I say vision, I kind of mean like a little bit esoteric of like, this is my vibe, this is where I see myself, but then also kind of like goals, like big and small, to then be able to, if you have a team around you, to give them a job to do, to be able to let them thrive at their job. I think that's really important, because if you don't have one for yourself, someone will tell you what that is, and you don't want that. So I think from an industry perspective, that's advice that I would give. And then maybe from a personal perspective is just, and this is what I'm trying to do right now, like I'm almost giving myself this advice. I think for so long I really wanted the down the middle career, the radio, the CMA award, and I still, like, if those things, I'm not saying I don't want those. That would be incredible if country radio accepted me and if this community accepted me. But I think my main objective and priority right now is just to go find my audience, like just to find those people that connect with me regardless of the industry templates that people kind of want you to fit into. So just be yourself and find your audience. Honestly, that's when things kind of have started to happen and feel a lot better for me, as to when I refuse to be anything but myself. So it sounds cheesy, but that's it.